Welcome everybody, this is Rick Tehijo Binya, and this is an EduBite. This is going to be a free EduBite that's going to be available on the website therockofsalem.org/membership. All you have to do is join as a free member in order to access this video. I will put it out on a website for a short time, and then I will draw it back, so you have to be a member to watch the video, but I will allow it to go out for some time before I do that. So what we're going to be talking about today is birth certificates. And the reason we're talking about birth certificates is because there's been a tremendous fraud perpetrated upon us, and and really where the rubber hits the road is that the birth certificate and the whole agenda behind it today is totally different than what the agenda was in the beginning, when the first records were being kept on births, marriages, deaths, so on and so forth. And I'm going to show you how it's all come together. Okay. First of all, as you can see here, most countries were keeping marriage records by 1890, with the date the county was created. Statewide registration generally began between 1905 and 1978. However, Hawaii, they kept records of birth as early as the 1840s. Now that was way before they were a state. So this was just something that the indigenous people of Hawaii were doing, and they were doing it to keep track of their own people. But I want to show you that the origin of settlement, right here, birth certificates, under King Henry VIII of England and his Venetian advisors. The first poor laws were promulgated around 1535, coinciding with the first official mandate requiring uniform record keeping by all Church of England parishes of birth, deaths, and marriages. Okay. Now, I want you to recognize that here was a king that was overstepping his boundaries as a king. Even kings have boundaries. Jesus is the King of Kings. He was the last king. Anybody who has served as a king since Christ has not been a capital K king. He's been a lowercase k king. There's only so far those kings can go, and usually they go only as far as the people let them. But here's a case of a guy who charged, that's an important word, charged the parishes of England to begin taking these records. Remember, he was not just a lowercase king of the people, but he was also a lowercase k king of the church. This is one of the reasons why in America we don't have that same structure, because that's what we were escaping when we left England. Okay, let's just get that straight. Now, so I want you to consider something. Before the United Nations, there was a League of Nations, right? And the League of Nations was founded on January the 10th, 1920. Now, generally, the 1920s were a very flourishing time in America. It was one of the greatest times as far as wealth production in the history of the world by any country. You can go and look up any history and find that to be a fact. But as you'll see, the founder of the League of Nations, Woodrow Wilson, was in fact the very same guy who under his administration allowed for the Federal Reserve Bank to come in and take over all centralized banking, effectively imprinting or inputting their system in as the general financing system of the world. Many wars after that date would be fought because of the Federal Reserve taking over other countries, taking over other central banks, until eventually they became the monopoly. Okay, now let's keep this all nice and neat. You'll notice here in the statistics that it ceased operation on April the 20th, 1946. Now think about it. What was coming to a close in 1946? We just fought a horrific war. Okay. We're still kind of in the late days of it, and we're suffering through this horrific war. The League of Nations ceases operations, and then what happens in 1945? The United Nations pops up in its stead, and the United Nations basically takes over where the League of Nations left off. Now, what the United Nations well, let's go back for a second. Something I want to tell you about the 1930s and 1940s. Almost every act that was passed by the Congress of the United States, and that is not the Congress of the several states. Please be informed that we're talking about two different Congresses here. The Congress of the United States Corporation, that was formed in the Organic Act of 1871, almost everything they did to position themselves in a patriarchal position over the people happened in the 1930s and in the 1940s. The United Nations was just another step. Okay? Many of the laws, quote unquote laws, that are passed by the corporate Congress are mandated by the United Nations. And I'm going to show you. Let me get rid of these. So there's a concept that comes back from Rome, and before that, which came from Babylon, and after that, which came from Egypt. Okay, it just has been the fabric's been weaved all through one civilization to the next, and Rome is where it culminated in such a way to where we come to a full understanding of what it is. A Dictionary of Greek and Roman Antiquities, John Murray, London, 1875. This explains how the Roman term adoptio or adoptatio, the Roman relation of parent and child, arose from either a lawful marriage or from adoption. If you go through here, you find out that there's this thing called, and I'm going to highlight it, in potestate parentum. In potestate parentum. Now, literally in English, that means in the power of his parent. So I'm going to show you that in Black's Law Dictionary, yep, the same Black's Law Dictionary that we use today, here's what it says. Potestate parentis, in the power of a parent. Okay, so what exactly is a parent? This is all going to relate back to the birth certificate. And that's why I want to show you this. Okay, so what's a parent? Okay, here it is. From the same Black's Law Dictionary. The lawful father or the mother of a person. This word is distinguished from ancestors in including only the immediate progenitors of the person, while the latter embraces his more remote relatives in the ascending line. So, the parent is the lawful father or mother of a person. So, what is the antithesis of parent, but still has legal obligation? That would be the word guardian. Now I want you to pay very close attention. There's a word that we're going to mention here in this definition that is going to give away what's going on. Okay? A guardian is a person lawfully invested with the power and charged with the duty of taking care of a person and managing the property and rights of another person, who for some peculiarity of status or defective age, understanding, or self-control is considered incapable of administering his own affairs. Okay. First of all, a person lawfully invested. Okay. Here's the elements of a guardian. Lawfully invested with the power and charged with the duty. Notice the word charged. Okay. So, is there a difference between guardian and parent? If you're the lawful father and mother of a person, is that different from being a person that's lawfully vested with power and charged with the duty of taking care of a person? Let me ask you a question. Do you see anywhere in the definition of parent that the parent itself, himself or herself, is a person? Do you see this anywhere? It says the lawful father or the mother of a person. This doesn't really negotiate whether the mother or the father is a person. It's presuming that they have authority over a person. Here, let's look at this guardian. A guardian is a person lawfully invested with the power and charged with the duty. Okay, so let's ask ourselves this question. A corporation is a person. An entity is a person. So could a guardian be a court? Well, sure. The guardian, being a court, is a person that's lawfully invested. It's a legal person, but it's lawfully invested with the power and charged with the duty of taking care of the person and managing the property. Could a state be a guardian? Yeah, because a state, again, is a fiction. So it's a legal person, but it could be lawfully invested with power and charged with the duty of taking care of the person and managing the property and rights of the other person. See, a state, a court, just about anything, a business, a trust, an estate, anything can be guardian. But only a flesh and blood, lawful father, lawful mother of a person, which, this is interesting, a person being obscure in its definition could also mean a corporation. So what if you're the parent of a ministry that you started? Or what if you, as a lawful father or mother, are the mother or father of a corporation? Interesting, isn't it? So, let's look up the word ward, because we're often given the presumption that the state and the court has the ability to take on a guardianship of a ward. Okay, now these first couple definitions are not relevant to this, but it is very interesting. The second definition is a division in the City of London committed to the special ward guardianship of an alderman. Think about that one. Let's go to the fifth definition. This is where we find what we're looking for. An infant placed by authority of law under the care of a guardian. So, authority of law. What is authority of law? Are we talking about the authority of a court, the authority of a jury, the authority of a jurat? What are we talking about? Indeed, we're talking about a court, we're talking about a state where authority has been vested for the general welfare of the people. Go read the preamble to the Constitution and ask yourself, does the state have some granted authority or some vested authority in the general welfare of society? Well, of course, sure, absolutely, they do. But the Constitution enumerates what they are allowed to vest in and what they can't. And nowhere in the Constitution are they ever given the ability to declare that a mother or a father, a parent, is a guardian. But yet, they have. I proved that. I showed you all the document that I received from from the census through the school that my child attends. I showed you how they had asterisks next to mother and father, and down at the very bottom of the page next to it, it said guardian. How could I, as a lawful father, be a guardian? Unless some chicanery has been done.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Biscayne Bay Bridal Boutique of Yankton offers a wide selection of bridal and special occasion gowns, veils, jewelry, and accessories. We have baptism, first communion, and quinceañera attire, as well as men's and boys' suits, plus a complete line of tuxedo rentals.
It's all about the blood. Yep, that's the slogan in the ministry I operate and with the products that I buy. Hi, I'm Rick Tehijo Binya, and I'm the host of the House of Hidalgo show on YouTube. If you're looking to promote your health with CBD oils, you're looking at a booking. Book greenflowerbotanicals.com for your health needs and use the link provided in the comment section of this video, because doing so will help you cleanse your blood and promote the blood of Jesus to the world. Just join our Healthy for the Blood campaign by ordering through the link below, and a percentage of the sale will benefit my ministry. It's all about the blood. Hey, over here. Did you know you can support the House of Hidalgo show and your favorite cause at the same time? At the House of Hidalgo store, we promote conversation starters. Our apparel is sure to get them talking. Stop in at teespring.com/stores/House of Hidalgo or click the link in the description box of this video to gaze upon the creativity. Then just order what you want, when you want it, and have it shipped directly to you. Wow! The House of Hidalgo store is here to serve you. Get conversations started the old-fashioned way. Wear it, don't swear it. And remember, we're all about the blood. So, let's go and let's look and see what kind of chicanery might in fact be happening. This is UNICEF. Welcome to the United Nations Agenda for the World. UNICEF, who since 1945, in the beginning of the United Nations, has been helping all the nations of the world to find commonality in law. They put out this birth registration right from the start. What an interesting lead-in. Let's read what they say. What is a birth registration? Birth registration is the process by which a child's birth is recorded in the civil register by the government authority. Ooh, authority. Wow. Who's the authority in America? We the people? Are we not the ones who ratified the Constitution and told government what they can and cannot do? Indeed we are. It provides the first legal recognition of the child and is generally required for the child to obtain a birth certificate. Generally required. You see these words. For the child to obtain a birth certificate, as a result, any other legal documents and rights. Here's in Namibia, or Namibia, I guess that's how you pronounce it, African country, birth registration is coordinated and recorded with the Ministry of Home Affairs and Immigration. Immigration. I wonder, is there a transaction taking place? Is this a contract of some sort? Immigration. Wow. Number 2. And here in this beautiful box, this beautiful blue box, birth registration is the right of the child to an identity and a nationality. Did you know that the birth of a child dictates the nationality? Did you know that birth registration is not necessary to identify the right of the child or to identify its nationality? Anyway, let's continue. Why is birth registration important? Here comes the propaganda. Flash, flash, flash. It is important that the registered child receive a birth certificate, since it is this that provides permanent, official, and visible evidence of a state's legal recognition of his or her existence as a member of society. Don't you know that having permanent, official, and visible evidence is so important? We have to recognize the child's legal existence. You see that? Evidence of a state's legal recognition. Birth registration enables a child to receive medical treatment, go to school, inherit property, prevent child exploitation, and find legal work. All these rely on birth registration to prove identity and thus entitlement to basic rights. Really? Birth registration proves identity and entitlement to basic rights? I think if we read between the lines, what we're going to find is that birth registration promotes and proves identity and thus entitlement to participate in government services. They're actually going to say that in a moment. Namibia is among the first African countries to ratify the Convention of the Rights of a Child. The convention states that all children have a right to be registered immediately after birth, a right to health, education, and the right to care and protection. These basic entitlements underpin a person's ability to keep healthy. Ooh, it's important. To keep healthy, you've got to register your child. To be educated, you got to register your child. Stay safe and earn a living. Being denied even one of these can have a negative impact on a child's opportunities for a lifetime. Now, I'm not downing the fact that it does have a negative impact not to have one. I have one of those cases in my own home. A child without a birth certificate. It is more difficult, but if done properly, the child can have a perfect life without the vicious contracts perpetuated by government. And if you don't believe me, let's look at the facts. It is difficult for unregistered children to prove their legal identity and to access services. Would you like me to read that again? It is difficult for unregistered children to prove their legal identity and to access services. So what's the real reason for registering a child? They tell you right here. To access services. Yeah. You know what you're doing? You're joining a membership. The membership of government services. Let's look at the second point. Unknown numbers of children orphaned by AIDS are being denied their right to inherit parental property because they do not have a birth certificate, providing legal proof of their identity and family ties. Oh, those poor children, orphaned by AIDS. What's that got to do with a birth certificate again? What's that got to do with an inherent right to parental property? What's that got to do with an inherent right to live, to make a living? Nothing at all. But if you want the government services to help you make that living, you got to have that birth certificate. Number 3. What will happen if my child's birth is not registered? Here comes the scare tactic, folks. Children whose births are unregistered and do not have a birth certificate may not be able to claim the services and protections due to them. Wait a minute. Back up. Due to them? Wait, so you're saying there's an inherent right to protection, yet you're saying they can't claim it because they don't have a birth certificate? In Namibia, orphans and vulnerable children can only access child welfare grants through the Ministry of Gender Equality and Child Welfare, provided they have a birth certificate. Do you see the propaganda? A birth certificate is a passport to opportunities. Wait, opportunities? Another commercial word. Number 4. Where are birth certificates, birth registration facilities available? From now on, all children born in Katatura Hospital will have their births immediately registered and will be issued a birth certificate. Thank you for having your services provided by Katatura Hospital. Our first service to you as a consumer is to automatically enslave your child. Thank you for participating. At the same time, the normal birth registration services continue to be available at the Ministry of Home Affairs and Immigration and the Ministry of Justice through the magistrates. So, wonder, why do we even need them if you're going to do it automatically? Or is there an option not to? Interesting. Let's look at the third piece. In the near future, the Ministry of Home Affairs and Immigration, together with the Ministry of Health and Social Services, are planning to expand birth registration points around the country, especially to hospitals with high birth rates. We want to make sure that the highest selling hospitals get this service first. Dun, 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 dun. You know what I mean? You can hear the patriotic music already playing in the background as they start to put in their new shiny services. Look at this Did You Know section. Did you know? In sub-Saharan Africa, over 70% of children born every year are unregistered, which is around 17 million children. Think about all of those dollars that are being lost by not being able to place your new registered slave into a Babylonian system that credits that account the potential labor of a lifetime and takes it out as necessary by trustees of the Babylonian presumptive system. I added all that stuff for effect, but guess what? That's actually what's happening. In the second point, in Namibia, 4 out of 10 children do not have a birth certificate. Whoa, that's amazing. Isn't that amazing? So, just want you to see UNICEF, Unite for Children, is a pluralistic, Babylonian, presumptivism system that allows all the countries of the world to come in under one common thread, the bankrolling of the slave child. Did you know, and I'm going to show you it here, right here. See this word, capitis diminutio? Do you know what that means? I want you to see the sentence that leads into this. Let's start from here. The Roman relation. Okay? The Roman relation of parent and child arose either from a lawful marriage or from adoption. Adoptio was the general name which comprehended the two species, adoptio and adrogatio, and as the adopted person passed from his own familia into that of the person adopting, adoptio caused a capitis diminutio, and the lowest of the three kinds. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the real clincher. When one passes from the power of his parent into guardianship, he goes into this status called capitis diminutio. And I'm going to show you the legal definition. In Roman law, a diminishing or abridgment of personality. Tills was a loss or curtailment of a man's status or aggregate of legal attributes and qualifications, following upon certain changes in his civil condition. It was of three kinds. And remember, capitis diminutio, when one transfers from the power of the parent into adoption, into guardianship, he goes through the lowest of the three. Well, here's the three kind. Capitis diminutio maxima, the highest or most comprehensive loss of status. This occurred when a man's condition was changed from one of freedom to one of bondage. When he became a slave, it swept away with it all rights of citizenship and all family rights. Would you like me to show you how capitis diminutio maxima is shown, how it's proven out, how it's exhibited? I'll show you. Look at the top of my screen. I'm going to type it in. You notice I typed in all capital letters, John, Fred, Doe. Have you seen this before? Look at your birth certificate. Look at your license. Look at your house deed. Look at everything that's ever issued to you by government. They're providing you a service. And in so providing you a service, they're diminishing your capacity to capitis diminutio maxima. You are but a slave to a Babylonian presumptive system. But there is a way out. That way out is right in front of you. Authentication. It's the first step of resuming your former capacity. Taking that instrument which created the diminishing of capacity. Let's recap real quick. So you realize that when you were birthed, you were in perfect form. You had all your rights. You had everything intact, and you had obligation to only your parents and to God who created you, to Yahuwah himself. But through trickery, your parents accepted a commercial transaction. They applied, they registered the name of your organization into the United States or wherever you were from. It was done the same way. And through this process, your parents, their role has been diminished to guardian over you, over the child, over the focus of the transaction. And as guardian, their capacity is limited. It's only as far as the law of their registration will allow it to go. But trickery has no legs in law. And to overcome this presumption that was offered to you without full disclosure, all one has to do as a step one is authenticate the very thing that started the whole mess. Take that certificate of live birth and authenticate it. What does that mean? Authentication is a process or action of proving or showing something to be true, genuine, or valid. The process of action of verifying the identity of a user or process. Authenticating your certificate of live birth and then placing a superior claim on top of it, stating that you are the holder in due course of that entity that was created, creates an obligation not to you but to he who falsely and without full disclosure brought forth this entity and has been making hand over fist currency ever since. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first show of a series where I'm going to try to take things back to a very simple place. I'm going to try to show how, in a very simple way, how it is that we were duped, who we actually owe obligation to, and how to live our lives accordingly every day from now on. A lot of this work has already been done and laid down on shows. We call it the House of Hidalgo Show, the God and Wrestling Connection. Go to my YouTube channel and check it out. They're all there. There's been 12 episodes so far. They all deal with this issue. Now, this video specifically is to help you understand that you have a right. And that right that you have is inherent. And it's not given to you by government. It was supplied to you by the fact that you live, that you're flesh and blood, that God gave you purpose. I'm going to end this video right there and challenge you to take this video and share it with your friends. May God bless you, may He keep you, and may everything you do prosper in His hands. God bless. Have a great evening. The House of Hidalgo Show. Everything we do is for the blood. Good night.
Sewing Cool Stuff and More of Yankton is your one-stop for general alterations, repairs, and custom sewing and sewing classes. Custom projects from baby blankets and memory quilts to jingle and shawl dance regalia dresses, and everything in between. Sewing Cool Stuff and More.